Without further ado, Purim is a very peculiar holiday that Chazal, set up. It's 2 different days. There's Purim and Shushan Purim, a sign which there is no other Chag like this. No other Chag like this. That which we have Yom Tov Sheni Shel Goliath is because we just have a suffix, but everyone agrees Pesach is on the 15th of Nisan. Sukkot is on the 15th of Nisan. Shavuos is on the 6th of Sivan, and Chutz La'Arz, that which have a second day is because of Sveika de Yoma, because in the old days they didn't know which day, the Beis Din declared as Rosh Chodesh, but in principle, it's on that day for everybody, and Purim comes, and Chazal were mechalik, and they made 2 separate Purims, the Purim de Prozim and Shushan Purim. And that needs to be understood. What is the inyan of Shushan Purim and why it's either or. Now we do have in halacha certain towns like Hebron or Tveria, right, that keep both days, but that's again because of the suffix that they don't know if they're Yudalid or Tesvav. Right? Yes, they have a double Purim. Tveria has a dilemma because it's not Mukaf Choma from all 4 sides. From one side is the Mediterranean, right?
I don't know if they're the Canaries.
That's right. So it's a suffix. It's a very suffix Gemara. They don't. They have to be machmir to keep both days because it's not totally encircled because one side is water, right? I forget what the suffix is in Hebron. I don't remember what the issue was, but again, this doesn't break the rule that in principle it's supposed to be those who keep the 14th do not keep the 15th, and those who keep the 15th do not keep the 14th. That's the way it's supposed to be. The fact that there's some towns that keep both, that's because of stuff. They don't know if they belong to the 14th or to the 15th. Yeah.
Okay, so what's going to go on?
Yes.
So he keeps one day, then they go to her mother,
right,
Yerushalayim, who is now keeping the second day.
Right.
And, they go along with them over there.
But their mitzvahs are totally on the first day for them.
Yes. Now there's another halacha that to be a citizen of a city, as far as the halachas of Purim, it's enough to be a one-day citizen. So if a person goes while it's during the nighttime, from Leil Tesvav, Motzai Purim of the Prozim, he goes there before daybreak. He becomes chayiv in the mitzvahs because a one day krach ben yamakari krach pruz ben yamakari pruz. It's enough. It's enough to be a one day citizen to become a citizen as far as being chayiv in the halachas of Purim.
So Megillah again.
Everything again. No, so what the 8 says, a person just wants to party but not be chayiv, is to go in after Alos HaShachar. Go in after sunrise the next morning, so then you're less than a day-long citizen, then you're not chayiv in the mitzvahs. But those who go in at night, they become chayiv, because to be a one-day citizen is enough.
So the fact that you're in
What?
that city makes you a citizen, you don't have to have kavanah.
So in other words, right.
I
don't know if I understood what exactly, but they do go to her.
No, that's what I'm saying. If they go after daybreak, they're just going to party. They're not. But if you go while it's still nighttime, you become chayiv in all the mitzvahs. Even though you missed the night Megillah, you still have to read the day Megillah and Matar Sev Yonim, B'Shloach Manos, everything all over again, right? Because that's a special halacha. A one-day citizen is called a citizen. The Gabe halachas of Purim. I forget how they learned it out. It's a Gemara that they learned it out. A special din. It's enough to be a one-day citizen to be chayiv in all the mitzvahs. But still, they're 2 separate Purims, seemingly, and that's an amazing thing.
Where was the wall in Hebron? When was there a wall?
I guess there must have been at one point. There doesn't have to be one now, but there historically, as long as there was, and the town got resettled, even if the wall did not get rebuilt. But that's our next question. Why is it totally in a wall? They made it totally in Choma. Right? So. Getting back to the whole story of Purim. So the plot was lahashmid largul abed, to wipe all the Jews off the map. So here's the question: what would they do the day after? What do I mean to say?
Who's the
They, the goyim. Day after, because the pasuk says bereshis, b'shvil yisrael shnikru reshis, b'shvil atar shnikres reshis. The whole world is created for the sake of Klal Yisrael. The whole world is created for the sake of the Torah. So if there's no Klal Yisrael, there's no Torah. How will the world continue to exist? Did they? Now you could say they just weren't thinking that far ahead, or maybe some were, some weren't. Did they have a plan? Did they have a plan of how to keep the universe running after they rid the world of Klal Yisrael?
What, are they thinking in those terms? That
They
is-
recognize such a fact.
That's what I'm saying. They're thinking, well, the whole
So-
world is only for the Jews, so we better figure out what we're doing the next step.
Yeah.
Probably
They were
not.
big. Well, I'm not talking about the person in the street, but there's some of these people who are big astrologers and sorcerers, et cetera, et cetera. Haman, when he threw the lots, he was a big astrologer. And there's a principle that when the goyim are just like the goyim are at war with us on earth, so also there's a war in heaven. There's sarim, right? They're ministering angels, are at war with the ministering angels of Am Yisrael. Ve'ena Kodesh Baruch Hu morid ilmad shu morid sara tchila. Roughly Lashon Chazal, that Kodesh Baruch Hu first, in the way that he brings victory, as he first takes down the ministering angel in heaven, and then things follow suit on earth. Right? So the ministering angels, they definitely know that this is going to be a problem. This is going to be a problem. So was there a plan? Or maybe there wasn't a plan. Or maybe there's a difference between the types of goyim. Right?
Well, didn't they think that Hashem rejected them? So if Hashem rejected them, then maybe he was going to
Christians
reinstate.
later on.
No, I read in some places that it's
They also?
I don't know if all of them, but yeah.
Right.
So then I think they thought Hashem's replacing,
Well,
that the world will go on because of them.
it's a very interesting Gemara. That I'm talking about the exchange between Haman and Achashveirosh. That interestingly enough, a point to make was that Haman came with money to the table. Right, Asar from Kikar Kesef. In the end, Achashveirosh turned it down. And Kesef Nasan Lach, but Haman was just so good at inciting. He able to swing around Achashveirosh in just 2 or 3 lines. Gemara says, that no one was better at Lashon Hara than Haman. He was a master, right? Why did he need to offer money?
What?
Why did he need to offer money in the first place? He was very good at inciting the king. But he came with money. Came prepared to pay. So, of course, the Mefarshim, based on Chazal, say that, he had in case the king would complain about the loss of taxes, revenue from taxes, I'm going to supplement it. But, we see he was so good at incitement. It really didn't have to come to that. Right? Perhaps there was something else, aside from the taina. If you're worried about the taxes, I'll pay it out of pocket. So there's another Gemara that says a very interesting mashal of, there were 2 guys. One guy had a big pit in his field, and he didn't know how to get rid of it. Because what are you going to do? You're going to dig up dirt from somewhere. Then you have a hole there where you dig up to fill up the pit. He had no idea. He had this big pit, and he had no way to get rid of it. Right? Another guy had a terrible dead mound of earth in his field, and he had no idea, how to get rid of it. Where is he going to dump it? Where is he going to, So, one day, these 2 people meet, the guy with the pit and the guy with the hill, and the guy with the pit says to the guy with the hill, I'll buy that clump of earth off of you because I need it, to fill in my pit. The guy says, I hate this hill so much, you could take it for free. Right? Says that was the mashal of Haman and Achashveirosh. Right? That Haman is the one with the pit, right? And Achashveirosh is the one with the mound. So I'll buy I'll buy it off you. Yeah. I want to get rid of it so bad you could have it for free.
Where does it say
Yeah?
that he didn't take the money?
It says, a kesef nosen loch. Now, the truth is, he did take the money. He took it and he gave it back. So there is a moral on that, Persians just love taking. So as I have it for free, so a kesef nosen loch, it's given to him. Meaning he took it and gave it back. Which is interesting. It means a transaction happened. And that's what Esther says, ki nimkarnu ani v'ami lashvi al galabi. We were sold. A transaction actually happened. That's what I'm saying. There was an inyan behind this, that the Haman brought money to the deal. There was a kinyan. There was a transaction. So Achashveirosh refunded the money, but he took it and refunded it. So I mean that there was a mechira. Just he was happy to sell it and then give the money back, but he sold it. We were sold. Kinim karno and ivami. And that's interesting. There's So let's break it down a little bit. This Chazal, and one guy has a pit, another guy has a mountain. Right? It's two goyim, Haman and Achashveirosh. So what does that mean? So the Maharal explains, as do other Sfarim, that there's the Jewish people. Make Goyim feel uncomfortable in two different ways. There's the way we make Amalek feel uncomfortable, as opposed to the way we make any other Goy feel uncomfortable. Don't make them feel uncomfortable in the same way. All right? To Amalek, we're a pit. To all the Goyim, we're a mountain. We're a mound. We're a bump. Meaning to say like this, that the unique hatred that Amalek has for Am Yisrael, and he himself is willing to do anything to be rid of us. Anything. Right? Even to the point of suicide. We read in in Parsha Zachar, Asher Karcha, he jumped into a boiling hot tub, just to cool it down, even though he got badly burnt. Right? And that's and whenever you see someone that is willing at great personal expense, right, to do anything to rid the world of the Jewish people, you're dealing with Amok. You're not dealing with Stamagoy. Like Germany, at the end was losing the war. They were losing the war, and still, they turned all their resources. Right? Just to exterminate Jews. That's Amalek. That when you're dealing with a person like that, you're dealing with Amalek. Because Amalek sees us as a vacuum that has to be filled in. We're like a hole in them. Right? Anything to get rid of us because we're like a hole. A hole that needs to be filled in. Oh, thank you very much.
Sorry, I forgot.
It's okay. Thank you.
I'm not understanding something. In the story of Gemara, it said that the person that had the mound of dirt so wanted to get rid of it, he didn't even want to take money for it.
Right.
So it sounds to me like that guy has more hatred. Like, just take it away, I don't even want money, than the guy with the pit.
No.
What am I missing?
What a pit represents. Vacuum. Our existence in the world is like a hole inside of Amalek's existence. That's like the nature abhors vacuum. To Amalek, we're a vacuum. Not true, in the depth of it is because it's the other way around. Amalek only exists in a vacuum of the Jewish people, in a vacuum of Torah and Kedusha. That's where Amalek exists. But he sees it the other way around. We are a vacuum in his existence. No, really, we're a real existential threat. Right? And he's willing to do anything, ad kadei suicide missions. Right? Because
So why do we call the Arabs that are on suicide?
that's Amalek. Amalek is not.
Ishmael.
They're
No.
mixed up.
Yeah.
What?
They're in gemish. They're ready. You can't separate
Yeah.
one from the other.
We spoke about this once. Amalek's called Rashis Goyim Amalek, head of all nations. He could be anywhere. Haman was a Persian citizen, carried a Persian passport. Yeah. there's a Yerushalmi. There's a Yerushalmi that says that he was not what we would call halachically a Amaleki, in the sense that his father Hamdasa was not an Amaleki. And of course, there's Amalek DNA somewhere, but Amalek is more an ideology and a midah than a nation. That's why the pasuk says, the Ramchal says, Timches Zecher Amalek, any memory of them. They're not an Am anymore. They're a virus. It's Zecher Amalek. Yes, there might be some DNA in them, but it makes no difference. They've shared their DNA with all the nations, but that DNA is not necessarily dominant. Wherever it pops up dominant, that's an Amaleki.
So it's not really a physical Amalek, it's really more of a cerebral, behavioral.
Yes.
So then we can
And that's
kill
why
Amalek today too.
Yes, no,
You
that,
don't know
that
yes.
and that's why Amalek still exists, even though the Shiva Amamin, like the seven nations, right? Those guys. The Rambam says Kfar Avad Zichram. We don't know, they've already intermarried, but Ram doesn't say that by Amalek. And the question is, what's the difference? Everyone intermarried already. Some Cherev came, mixed up the whole world. The answer is because Amalek is not a regular nation. It's
There's a clear genealogical path from Agag to Haman.
There is, but nation goes by the Umasam. Nation goes by the father. Are you an Italian or are you a Frenchman? Well, who was your father? That's the Am you belong to. Hamdasa, Agag's father was not an Amaleki.
Maybe just because he lived in
Maybe
Persia.
his mother.
No, he's
His
saying
mother.
because-
Yeah.
I think
No, but
he
Yeah.
does this, and he shows from Agag to Haman. You can trace it. It's not that many generations.
a man like Hitler, you can trace the DNA.
No,
That's
not
what I'm saying.
Hitler, but I'm saying, but yes, with Haman to Agag. Okay, whatever.
But what does this mean, like a vacuum?
Right. He can't exist wherever we are. We're a whole in him. And that's why he's willing to go up to ad kadei suicide. Because he can't live with us. He just can't. So as it were, even if it costs suicide, I really didn't lose anything. I had nothing to lose anyway, if that's the price. Right, because I can't coexist with the Jewish people. Wherever they are is a vacuum in my existence.
Does this go back
It's
to
it's
the-
like it's our existences are mutually exclusive. Where we are, he isn't.
Does this go back like to the Yaakov Esav thing, or it's totally different?
There's worse than Yaakov and Esav because Amalek is a subsection of Esav as the total concentration of the Ra in Esav. There's also Esav has is a much bigger framework, and he has something good about him also. And that's the Indian that his head is in Marasa Machpelah. But as it were, the essence of the evil of Esav is all concentrated in Amalek. That the Ramchal writes. Yeah.
I thought it's because he's double Esav.
Excuse me?
I thought Amalek is double Esav because Amalek's parents is Esav and a relative of Esav, his niece or something. No?
Right, Amalek came from Timnah and Eliphaz.
Okay. And
And I don't-
from
it's,
Esav?
It wasn't Eliphaz born from,
What? Excuse me?
wasn't,
Leave us from Israel.
That's how.
Right, the son of Mochalas. Can't remember. Yeah, but Timnah was wanted to convert into Judaism. Avram and Yitzchak rejected her, so she went to Esav. But actually, just getting back to the point that the Amalek views Am Yisrael as a vacuum in their existence. It's like a hole going right through them. And again, I mean, you see, Haman said, because, Mordechai didn't bow down to him. So he goes home and he tells his wife and his friends, he told Rov Oshro, Rov Bonov, how rich he is and had great kids, and V'chol ze eineno shaveh li, and it's all worth me because one Jew doesn't bow down to him. So I'm sure. Right? No. you know, we are a hole in their existence. Chol ze eineno shaveh li. He was a maniac, but he wasn't. But this wasn't part of his insanity. Here is you actually was talking sane, because that's really the nature of the adversity between Am Yisrael and Amalek, right? We are a hole inside of them, because the truth is it's really the other way around, right? They only exist in the vacuum of Torah and Kedusha and Am Yisrael, and that's why from their perspective, nature abhors vacuum, right? Vacuum abhors nature, right? Right. The vacuum views nature as a vacuum to it, right? But that's not the way it is with the other goyim. That's the way it is with Amalek, and that's why it's just this very unique adversity between us and them, and that's why there's no coming to terms with them. There's no coming to grips with them. Timcha zecher Amalek mitachas hashamayim. Right. But the other nations, classical anti-Semitism, if there's anything left of it, right? The Jews are a bump. We stick out. We're different. We're more successful. We outperform them. The hill, the bump, outperform them. There's jealousy. Different, jealous. That type of stuff. And that's If that's the problem, there are ways. There are ways to get around that. Right? Like lawsuit level. They'll be accepting of the bump, right? And they'll all follow. They're all going to follow our lead. They'll be accepting of it. Get over the jealousy. There's a pit. A pit is a pit. It's a vacuum. It needs to be filled in. There's no two ways about it. There's no coexistence with a pit. Right? So, here's the thing. If Haman was willing to go on a suicide mission, right, to rid the world of the Jews, like Hitler in his own day, that's wherever you see that type of hatred, that do anything to rid the world of Jews, even if it costs you everything. Right? Whenever you see that, you're seeing Amalek. Sadly, because of his position of racist goyim, he could seduce other nations into it. He get other people to go along with it. But, I'm sure Amalek would rather survive, somehow ridding the world of the Jews, have a day after. He would like to, even though it's not in the cards for him. That's what the pasuk says. Reishis goyim Amalek va'achariso adei oved. He has no acharis. He has no end. He has no future. He's Reishis goyim, but he has no acharis. Right? But he'd like to have one, preferably. But even if Amalek is willing to sacrifice everything to rid the world of the Jews, because he's got to fill in the vacuum in his existence, right? No way you get Achashveirosh to get on board for that. No. So he hates the Jews like the mound. All right, that's not the type of adversity that you're willing to sacrifice everything, to. So, Achashveirosh would never get on board for that, a suicide mission. All right. So, was there a plan? So the Gemara talks about, that's really the next step. So one guy sees Am Yisrael as a pit, another guy sees Am Yisrael as a mound. That's the difference between how Amalek sees Am Yisrael as a... But let's get together. And you stick the mound into the pit, and the whole thing equalizes. They had a plan, right, of how they could work together. And they thought, obviously it was a mistake. That's part of the V'nafochu. Right. They thought that if they worked together, right, they could find a way to keep the world going the day after. the day after they rid the world of the Jewish people.
The day means the Amalekim and the rest of the guys?
Yeah, that's right. Haman and Achashveirosh. Haman and Achashveirosh. And that was what that's what that deal represented. It was a partnership. They thought they could work together, right, to keep the world going after they rid the world of Am Yisrael. And that's the depth of what goes on. Listen, I need your mound in my pit, and then everything is equalized. Right? It was an amazing conspiracy that they thought they could pull off.
Based on
Right.
what? Based on what do they think?
So
If they understood that the world will not go on without the Jews.
no, so I'm going to explain
Okay.
how to equalize. Put your mound in my pit. Right? Right. If they work together, the power of Amalek with the power of the Goyim, put the mound in the pit, everything's equalized. Now let's go a little bit deeper into what was going on over there. Now with this you can understand. There's something that comes up over and over and over again in the Megillah. Shushan Abira. Right? Shushan Abira. And it starts that way and it ends that way. How does it start that way? There was a party for the whole 127 Medinas, and then there was the Cholam and Nitzah, a special party just for Shushan. And that's where things get interesting, by the special party by Shushan. All right, that's when the story really gets going. Bring Vashti and by the special party for Shushan. Right? Something that should ring, similar to how the story ends. One day for killing out in the whole 127 Medinas, and then one day just killing out in Shushan. Perfectly parallel. Right? All right. When the and take a look that when the Gzera went out, right? Originally, so right. So Vayir Shushan Na'avocha. Right? There was sadness or confusion in the town of Shushan. Who cares? Right? It's for the Yidden. Wow. Vayir Shushan Na'avocha. Right? And then when the whole thing is V'nafochu, Vayir Shushan Tzol V'samecha LaYudim Ha'Yisrael V'Sasam Yikar. Why is Shushan? LaYudim Ha'Yisrael V'Sasam Yikar. So when you talk about Vayir Shushan Na'avocha, then Vayir Shushan Tzol V'samecha. What's going on? Right?
The Jews were spread out in 120.
That's right. Exactly.
They weren't specifically in Shushan.
We're not specifically in Shushan. B'chol Medinos HaMelech. So,
That's what he says to me. People scattered among all your nations.
right? Let's talk about Ha'ir Shushan. So of course in Pashut Pshat, the before she just come to explain the Pashut, say because the people in Shushan heard first because they were closest to but it's that's the Pashut Pshat, but it's saying a lot deeper. That Ha'ir Shushan. Right. What Achashveirosh wanted to, do, and this was his mountain, but it was a mountain. He couldn't integrate it. He couldn't, it was sticking up. He couldn't integrate it. What he wanted to do was to bring the Midah of Malchus, the Midah called Shechina, to him. And that's the inyan, that by this, by the big, big party in Shushan, he took out the clay Beis HaMikdash. V'kelim mikelim shonim. Right? The Midah called Malchus, the Midah called, Shechina, and those two are synonyms. Right? He wanted to pull and absorb that Midah himself. Right? Now, what he wanted to do, and he couldn't do it without Haman. He thought he couldn't do it without Haman. It can't be done, period. Right, but what he thought was, he wanted to make Shushan an alternative, a cosmic alternative for Yerushalayim. Now, and that's Yerushalayim is called Kishoshana, wherever you find Shoshana and Shir Hashem, that's Yerushalayim. Shushan was going to come to replace the Shoshana. What they
That's why it's named that?
Al Pisod, yeah. Right. As far as like how you do it, the Midah of Malchus, the shame, we have 7 divine names that we use in our tefillah, connected to 7 midas. So the midah of Malchus is Adnus. Aleph Daled Nun Yud, Gematria 65. Right? Shushan is 650. Right? 10 times. He thought Shushan could be just his mistake was that Shushan was lacking the hay of Shoshana, which that refers to the midah of Malchus per se. In the name Yud Kei Vav Kei, the final hay is the midah of Malchus. Because Kishagol Yisrael, Golsa Shechina Imahem. When we went to Golus, the Shechina followed us. The Shechina, because Am Yisrael is in Golus. Right? The Shechina is in Golus with us. And that's what Esther Hamalka represents. She represents the Shechina that's captive in Beis Hamelch. Shechina begalusa, as we find throughout the Zohar and the Mekubam. Shechina and Golus. And that's the scene of Esther Hamalka. Bayom Hashishi, Vatilbash Esther Malchus. Love Sharuach HaKodesh, Chazal say. The midah of Malchus was Chalnet, and she was a captive in the house of the king. And that was the plot. The Shechina's in Golus. So Gemara in Yuma, Daf Samach Tes, that when the bias was Nechrav, so we used to say Akel Agoda Givar Vanora in our tefillas, because Moshe Rabbeinu already said it. Akel Agoda Givar Vanora Shelo Yisapar V'Kashochad. Jews always said Agoda Givar Vanora even before Anshe Kasakdo institutionalized prayer, because we copied Moshe Rabbeinu, right? So then the bias was Nechrav, and Daniel said, the goyim are beating up on us. Aye Gvurosov. So he stopped saying Gibor. All right. And Yirmiyahu said, right, in this place where the Shechina was once revealed, right. All right. Now Shualim Hilchubo, right. Aye no Rosov. Until it came Anshe Knesset Agdola and said Adrabah. Heinen Gvurosov. Heinen no Rosov. Just the opposite. Right? Heinen Gvurosov, because if the Goyim beat up on Am Yisrael and HaKadosh Baruch Hu does nothing, so he's obviously restraining himself. Ezu Gibor HaKovesh Yisrael. Right? And L'gabe Neira, they said, okay, that Ilmole Moro Shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ha'ech Umeh Cholis Kaim Ben Umas. If not for the awesomeness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how can Am Yisrael survive in Golus? Right? So that means that Am Yisrael surviving Golus is called Neira. That means because we survived because the Shechina used to be revealed in the Beis HaMikdash accompanied us, and that's how we survive. The Radziner, the Sod Yesharim, says that how did Anshe Knesset Agdola understand what Daniel and Yirmiyahu didn't understand? You know why? Because they lived through the Nes of Purim, and that's what Nes of Purim taught us, the V'nafochu. That sometimes you have to learn how to see God in the hard times. See in the Hester Panim, right? See in the Hester Esther Manatorvanai Nochi Esther Panai. The Anshe Knesset actually learned that from the Nes of Purim to look for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even in the Hester Panim, and they saw Gvurosav and Neirosov. But the point that is that the Shechina is with us in Golus, right? Achashveirosh wanted to conquer the Shechina for himself. The divine presence in this world is what keeps the world going. The Saba Koshel Shelo Dira Batachtonim, he tried to, he tried to absorb it. And that's all represented by, Esther being Bebeis Achashveirosh. Right? The Shechina is captive. Right? And they wanted to find a way. So we're going to rid the world of Am Yisrael. But the power that Am Yisrael was carried, that they're like a lightning rod attracting, because they take the Shechina wherever they go, they wanted to absorb that. And they want to set up Shushan Habira as an alternative to Yerushalayim, that the power of the Shechina, even though they weren't interested in serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but the power of the Shechina would be there. And that's how the world was going to continue. Shushan instead of the Shoshana. Right? The clay of the Beis HaMikdash were there. Right?
So it's a little bit funny, even that from all the women that Achashveirosh brought in front of him, that he chose Esther,
Yes.
which was, when you say Esther HaMalka, was the representation of the Shechina, the
Yes.
Malchus, and he wanted the Malchus.
That's
So
right.
there was something that was pulling him
Yes.
to make this choice.
Yes. Except that he thought it was all going, consciously, subconsciously, going in this direction. It was all leading to the Binah Fochel.
What did you say earlier that he needed Haman for this though?
All right, well, we're getting there.
Okay.
So the Indian was that, like we said, he wanted the Malchus, but the Malchus couldn't get in Troyes. It was a bump protruding outwards. So now Haman is that pit that could equalize. So now to understand deeper, right? What Haman would provide, right? Which is his goal of Rashis Goyim, his position of Rashis Goyim, right? And again, we don't know the details. We just know what the Sfarim say. Generally speaking, that Haman would provide an ideology, a Rashis Goyim, an ideology, to make sense out of the whole thing. That's what it sticks up. You can't get your head around it. All right, well, you could fit it into this pit, as it were. Of course, Amalek's ideology is all lies, but they provide a narrative that would somehow make sense, like the media does, provide a narrative that would somehow make sense out of this. That's what means fit it into the pit, even though it's a pit, it's nothingness. Haman is all lies, and their philosophy is all a bunch of lies. Right? But he would provide, a das type of dea, right? Rashis Goyim, right? Some type of ideology to make sense out of the whole thing. They had no idea, just like they couldn't physically internalize the Shekhinah, so that also they couldn't get their heads around it. Right? And Haman would provide a way, provide a way, like a culture, a religion, and that's seeing that Haman made himself in Avodah Zarah, and everyone bowed down to Haman because he was made in Avodah Zarah, and Achashveirosh supported that. He can't tziva lo melech. Right? He was going to provide some type of religion, ideology that could incorporate the Shekhinah. They had to figure out how to handle with it, right? And that's what Haman would provide. That's called fitting the mountain into the pit, getting around it. That was the idea. That was the plot, and they needed each other, Haman and Achashveirosh, and that's what it means. They made a partnership, and Haman came to, he was buying, he's buying the mountain. Saying, listen, I don't look at the Jewish people the way you look at them, all right? And I can't do this myself, and you can't do it yourself. I need to buy in to your perspective on them, and we put our two perspectives together. We might be able to, capture the Shekhinah, right? Not let it dissipate after we rid the world of the Jewish people. We keep the Shekhinah sandwiched between us, right? And that's how we're going to keep it going. And that was the Shushan Conspiracy, to set up Shushan Abira as an alternative to Yerushalayim, as you should know that this was the Migdal Bavo idea also, except that was before the Beis was ever made, that they had this idea of making an alternative to Yerushalayim. It was the same concept. They used Achdus. Achashveirosh, was just trying to capture the Shekhinah of the Jewish people. Right?
Why do they want it if it's not that they want the kedusha, but they want it just
To survive? The world doesn't continue. The world doesn't continue if you don't find a way. If you don't find a way to capture the Shekhinah, the universe would. There's no day after. There's no day after. Right? So each one having a unique angle on the Jewish people, they want to combine the angles. And they could close the circuit, find a way to sandwich the Shekhinah between them, and keep that energy, without the Jewish people. So Haman would be the ideologue or the head of the church, and then Achashveirosh would be the Malchus, and then that's how they sandwich the Shekhinah between them. That's what they thought they could do. And the Shekhinah really was in Shushan at the time, because Esther was there. And that's what facilitated their illusion that they could pull this off. Because the Shekhinah really was there.
How could they know that?
They were amazing. They were big astrologers, and also there was the subconscious was doing a lot more than the conscious. Because whatever happens on earth is really there's a fight between the Sarim and Shemayim also. Right? And that's all part of the Nafochu. Right? This is just such an amazing Megillah. Everything. You should know everything from the first half, you'll see paralleled in the second half. Everything. Right? And of course, the biggest hypocrite of them all is Achashveirosh. Right? One day, he's, Jew's worst enemy. Next day, he's Jew's best friend. So of course, whatever he shtups at Haman when Haman falls out of favor, it's really what Achashveirosh himself wanted to do. Right? He's just projecting it all, throwing it all on Haman, because his mood shifted. Right? Amazing. Anyway, it's our day and age.
What exactly is the meat of Malchus aside from shower?
The Shekhinah is
I
called
know,
Malchus.
What is that?
It is the Ba'ata Mechaya Es Kulam. That's the meat of Malchus. That's what makes everything exist. Without the Shekhinah, you take the Shekhinah away, then the world will go back into nothingness.
But it has nothing to do with Kedusha, it's just power.
No, well, that's what they thought. They thought that you could, as it were, bottle the power. The Jewish people were carrying the power. You could bottle it, while it's still in gullus. But what I'm saying is that the tide has turned, right? And Vahaman nofel alamita, right? And and Haman's falling on, as the Chazal tells us, the Malach made him fall on top of Esther. And they found a king walks in and sees a compromised position, right? Hagam lichvosh esamalka imi babayis. That's exactly what Achashveirosh wanted to do. He's just projecting it all on Haman. Lichvosh esamalka imi babayis. That's exactly what Achashveirosh wanted to do. Capture the Malka, the Shekhinah, and bring it to him. Except now he's all throwing it on him, right?
In David Foreman's book, he says that word actually means conquer.
Yeah.
He says it's a military word. When we usually say, well, he would seduce the queen right in my house, but he says that it's actually a military word to mean conquer.
That's what we're saying.
Which is exactly what you're saying here.
Yes. And that's it. But that was the whole plot. Lichvoshes hamalka imi babois. Except now he's just throwing it all on Haman, right? That was exactly what they planned to do. That was the whole plot. Except now.
There was a lot of spiritual recognition from Haman and Achashveirosh. They recognize the spiritual qualities of what's making the world go on. Today, you don't feel that there's this spiritual recognition, like God is like out of the picture.
Yeah.
So how are we still existing with then the Amaleki and the Haman ideas? If God is out of the picture, really,
No, he's not out of the picture because we have Purim every year, and we get our bearings straight. We get reminded.
But I'm talking about the outside world.
Some of them do. I don't know, some of them do.
But it's not based on them, it's based on us, and we are still here.
Right.
It's not based on that. I mean, it's only the last 200 years or
But
so.
Jews are
This
physical.
where is God thing
Yeah.
is very recent. The rest of the world, I mean, because we live in our times, that seems so real to us. Everyone believed in God in some spiritual
but now-
power.
But now the Jews, the hatred of the Jews is sort of a physical hatred of us versus the spiritual hatred.
Now, really, according to Esther Wayne's classes, what did wars always used to be about? Land. They're not now. Now it's spiritual. Now ISIS is saying their God is the right God. And we're saying, no, it's our God. It's changed.
No, years ago was not land.
It was always about land.
No, it was
Empires.
religious.
If you look at the story, it's always about conquering land.
Okay.
If you go to art museums, if you go to museums, the whole
believe
look at the
God.
paintings that were done 600 and 700 years ago was either sex, it was religion. You have the religious paintings. Yeah.
War was always about conquering territory and having more land. I want to be the empire I want.
It was also
Okay, that's what it was about. And it's not landing. Well, now it's spiritual fights. It is much more moving in that direction.
But anyway, to bring it full circle, so that's saying Vayir Shushan Navocha, Vayir Shushan Tzalav Samecha, because the year Shushan really is where the Shekhinah was at that time. That's where it was. Except that the revelation was the Shekhinah can never be happy outside of Eretz Yisrael. The Shekhinah can never be happy with Am Yisrael oppressed. So Vayir Shushan Navocha, when the Gzera came out, then Vayir Shushan Tzalav Samecha. It's referring to the Shekhinah. And then, La Yudim Ma'isor, the Yidden themselves, Arav Simcha Sasav Ikar. Right? The Shekhinah belongs to Am Yisrael, and the Shekhinah belongs in Eretz Yisrael. If it's ever in Chutz La'aretz, it's not really resident there. It's like an embassy. That, in international law, it has the din of the soil, of the mother country. Shekhinah is never happy in Chutz La'aretz. Shekhinah is never happy if Am Yisrael is oppressed. Right.
Why was it that Mordechai didn't want Esther to reveal? On one hand, she's sort of a traitor to that scheme. On the other hand, maybe she would decide to join them.
I mean, look, it was an issue of the right time. And that was the issue of the right time. At one point, she does, but you have to wait for the right time. Okay, but it's so now this is what Esther says. Yinasein gam mochar la Yehudim. I want tomorrow also. That was the special din of killing in Shushan, which made Shushan Purim, which by the way, in Halacha, there is one place that you keep the 15th, even though it has no wall from the days of Yehoshua ben Nun, Shushan itself. Persian Jews, that if they know where Shushan is, they keep the Purim on the 15th. Because that's where the Nes happened. So it's there, and anywhere else that's walled, and the lashon of the Yerushalayim that the Ram brings is that to make a zikaron for Yerushalayim. Make a zikaron for Yerushalayim. That was the motivation of Shushan Purim. Zikaron Yerushalayim. To teach you Yerushalayim can never be usurped. There's no replacing Yerushalayim. So Gam Mochar, because your plan for the day after, for Mochar, after you killed all the Jews, your plan was to make Shushan an alternative to Yerushalayim. That's how you're going to keep the world going. So I want for Mochar a special day of killing out in Shushan. Right? Just the hefech of that. Right? There is no replacing Yerushalayim. There is no replacing Yerushalayim. And that's what it means that the walls of Yerushalayim were never really breached. That's an amazing halacha, that it's totally in Chayma, but the Choma doesn't have to be actually built. The Chomas of Yerushalayim now are not the original Chomas, built by the Ottoman Empire. It's an interesting halacha that you pretend that it's still walled. Pretend. That's the halacha, and it's amazing. To teach you that the walls of Yerushalayim can never be broken. You can never really break Yerushalayim, breach the city, and permanently move the Shekhinah elsewhere. The Shekhinah may appear elsewhere to escort Am Yisrael, but there's no really breaking the walls of Yerushalayim. There's no real breaking of the walls of Yerushalayim. Those walls stand unbreakable, spiritual walls. The Shekhinah always is there. That's its base of operations. It has embassies, but there's no replacing Yerushalayim. Right? That's when the walls were never really broken. The spiritual power of the walls, the physical walls were broken, but there's still, the Shekhinah is always safe in Yerushalayim. Right? Shekhinah will always go back there. There's no moving the Shekhinah elsewhere.
So
Right.
all walled cities?
All well from the days of Yeshua ben Nun.
Why?
What?
Why?
Because that's what the power of the wall. There's another depth to that. That Amalek is connected to snake that says that he lives under the Gader because he's Poritz Gidro Shel Olam. He broke the fence of the world. As it were, represents that the cosmic fence is rebuilt. Those walls represent the wall between the good and the bad, and the good is on the inside of reality and the bad is on the outside of reality, which is what's going to be in the future. And that's what it is. That's why Shushan Purim and Purim the Prozim do not coexist. Because one is connected to present, one is connected to future. One is connected Hayom La Sosam, and the other one is Besod Umocher Lekabel Scharim. They don't, one is the Purim of the present, one is the Purim of the future. The Purim of the present is that we were saved from annihilation, even though we're still in Golus, which is the reason why we don't say Hallel on Purim, Akati Avdi Achashveirosh, we're still slaves of Achashveirosh. It wasn't a full redemption. That's the Purim of the present. But there's also the power of Purim that represents the future. When the Shekhinah goes back to Eretz Sechazena Einenu, Beshuv Chol Etzion. That's what Shushan Purim represents. Right? If the Shekhinah is in Golus with us, it's not here to stay. That anyone could think, the Goyim could think they could latch onto it and siphon its power. And that's what Shushan Purim represents. It's the Purim of the future. The Shekhinah is going to go back to Eretz Yisrael. Right? The walls that were seemingly broken down are going to be rebuilt. Right? So that's why the two cannot be, there's no such thing as, because one is the Purim of the present, one is the Purim of the future. Two separate times. Shushan Purim is a special din of remembering Eretz Yisrael, as Lashon Yerushalmi. Zikaron Yerushalayim. Right? That there's no replacing Yerushalayim. Right? There is, even if the Shekhinah is in Golus, you can't latch, the Goyim can't think that they could latch onto it and keep it by them. It belongs in Yerushalayim, and it will make it back to Yerushalayim. All right.
Right back up. So
Yes.
why is Shushan Purim not just Yerushalayim? Why should it be at every world city if the whole thing was trying to replace
Yeah, it's because
Yerushalayim?
that's yes. So that is correct. It was all covered for Yerushalayim, but it has to do with the significance of a wall. That the walls of Mimos Yeshua ben Nun represent the walls, cosmic walls around reality. That it should be that good is in reality, and anything that's evil is ex-reality. Seemingly those walls got shattered, and that's why there's, the good and evil are intermingled. Right? But so we want to remember the power of the walls, and that's what Chazal darshan, Ani Choma v'Sharai Kamigdalos, Ani Choma Zu Torah. Right? The Chomos Yerushalayim represent the Torah, the power of the Torah. As a it's talking about referring that it's the Purim of the future where everything will be restored, that the good will be in reality and all the Ra will be outside of reality. So it's everything about Shushan Purim is the Shushan of is the Purim of the future. All right. All right. Well, this one more point, and then we'll in Mesachas Tamid and Mesachas Midas, it talks about the lishkas, right? The different chambers that they had in the Beis Hamikdash. They had offices where they kept supplies, and so there was one office that was called Shushan Abira. It was an office called Shushan Abira. I can't remember. I want to look up for I can't remember exactly what they kept there, what the function was. All right. One office, some of them were in Kodesh, some of them were in Kodesh and Chol. I don't remember offhand the exact position of where it was Kodesh or Chulin, but it makes no difference for our purposes. Yeah, but it was a lishka called Shushan Abira. Right? So on last Purim, I was by my Rebbe, Moshe Shapiro, Zachar Levrach. So I asked him. You know, it was obviously Shushan Purim in Yerushalayim. You know, why was it? You want Chazal when they Ezra, they rebuilt the Beis HaMikdash. They want to remember Shushan. They made a lishka called Shushan Abira. He says, "Zayachelek mi'an v'nafochu." Zayachelek mi'an nafochu. Right? That as they wanted with Shushan to replace Yerushalayim, and just the opposite. The Tikkun of Purim, accelerated the return of the Shechina, right, to the Shoshana. And that was it. To remember that's all part of v'nafochu. That whole plot, to make Shushan Abira a replacement for Yerushalayim, that was all part of what backfired. And the Nes of Purim accelerated, the rebuilding of the Second Temple, and they want to make a zecher. That's part of v'nafochu, that they wanted to make Shushan a replacement for Yerushalayim, and that's what, if anything, that's part of v'nafochu, that it accelerated the rightful return of the Shechina, and they want to make a zecher. So they made a lishka in the Beis HaMikdash called Shushan Abira, to make a zecher for that. They tried to replace it, right, with Shushan, and it went back to the Shoshana. Okay, Rabbi Sir, Freilich and Purim. Everyone's invited to come visit. The brachas we give, 6:59.